Hey everyone, I'm Josh from before. If you know anything about me, it's that I love playing with my toys. I absolutely love posing action figures. If you watch this channel a lot, you see these shelves get cycled out pretty regularly with new figures, new poses. And YouTube has been pushing their like TikTok style shorts videos, and I've been using that format to do some 360 posing videos a lot lately. So anyway, I do get a lot of questions about posing tips. Do I have any suggestions for more dynamic, naturalistic poses? And I really love questions like this because I think the answer is a lot more simple than you might think. So I want to share some quick tips that I think will help you get a bit more out of your posing time and a little bit more out of your figures. So my first tip is to use reference. Use photo reference. Everyone does this. All artists do this. There's no shame in it. You're not supposed to be expected to just conjure perfect ideas without looking to outside reference, to the outside world. So the single most valuable tool you're going to have for posing is Google image search. That's it. Just fill in the blank pose, running pose, jumping pose, fighting pose. Not only are you going to get a ton of returns for the pose that you search for, but that's also going to guide you down a rabbit hole of sort of stream of consciousness kind of thinking. Like the other day, I was looking up martial arts poses, and some of the returns were one person throwing another person. So I honed that search into martial arts throws. And after looking at some of those, I realized a even better, more targeted search was judo throws. And the images I got for that ended up getting a ton of the 360 posing videos out of that. And some of my favorite poses I've ever made. And that all just came from opening up Google, letting it guide me toward a more focused, specific sort of vibe that I was looking for. Another great direction to go when doing a Google image search is athletes, Olympic athletes, professional athletes. Some of these people are the closest thing we have in the real world to superheroes. So taking a close look at how their bodies look in action is very important. And then of course, outside the real world, look to other art, movie scenes you like, comic scenes you like, splash pages, whatever it may be, photography, fashion photography. There are a lot of unexpected places where you can get inspiration, and there's like I said, there's no shame in it. Be inspired by other people, the things that other people have made. That's just how art works. Speaking of art, let's go on to another tip, and this is a concept that is used in art and composition. It's called line of action. So let's take Godspeed here. This guy's a speedster, so it's going to make sense to put him in a running pose, right? Let's find a quick little running pose. So the line of action in this running pose would be this sort of diagonal lean forward, right? And if we wanted to make this more dynamic, we would start with something kind of naturalistic, realistic, and then exaggerate it. Start slowly exaggerating this diagonal line a little bit more forward. Maybe turn him into it so he's leaning into that run even more. And this is where you kind of just keep pushing it until it breaks and then walk it back a little bit. So we want to see, okay, he would be turning his torso here to lean into the run. That's too much. That doesn't make any sense. Walk it back a little bit. The line of action, the leaning diagonal forward, that is what's communicating fast, speed. So lean into that line of action a bit more until you go too far, and then walk it back a bit. Now my next tip is going to be to act out the motion. Let's say you got a figure and you want him swinging a sword. Now, maybe you're not a sword expert, or you don't know much about sword fighting. It's going to help you to act out this pose in the mirror. For one, to copy the pose and see what it is. But this is what I think you should take it one step further. Don't just find the sword swinging pose that you want and copy that in the mirror just the way you want it. Think about the whole motion and act out that whole motion, because you're gonna start connecting dots in your brain and realize, oh, you know what? Well, in order to make this sword swinging movement, I would need to hold this arm out here to balance myself, and I would need to kind of step forward into that to figure out the swing. And when you do that, when you act out the motion and you figure out how that pose actually has to work in real life, then you might start finding that when you look at the figures your mind will start to connect the dots of where that sword swing is going to connect. And it makes that static pose feel like it's in motion, because you can just see with the movement of the figure that that moment is going to carry on into the sword connecting. And then my final suggestion is this: look beyond the obvious pose. Of course, we all want to put our figures in badass action poses, pointing a gun or uppercutting someone, and you should be putting your figures in these poses, and I'm doing it all the time, absolutely. But don't be afraid to look past those. Sometimes you can't beat just a classic power pose. Maybe they're reloading the gun or cocking the gun. Like I have Grim Knight here, and he's not blasting away. He's just in this kind of ready stance. I really like this sort of like tilt of the wrist here, like he's using proper gun handling discipline. But I kind of think of it as like the moment before the moment. So much of like comic books is posing and monologuing, and the villain is giving his evil speech, or he's fuming about how much he hates his hero. They don't all have to be the splash page. It can be a quieter moment, and that's just gonna give you a little bit more variety on the shelf, a little more attitude, just some cool ass vibes, right? So those are my tips for posing your figures. Let me know if these were helpful for you. I love it when people let me know that they're inspired by something I have on my shelf, because I'm hanging out in the toy groups on Facebook, looking at Instagram, and getting inspired by the stuff that other people make. There's nothing wrong with it. Be inspired by other people, take it even further, make it your own thing, and just have fun. And take your time. These poses, they don't just magically happen in an instant. You see something I might post on this channel, and it looks immaculate and effortless and just ever so perfect. You don't see the hours I spend in this room just like pulling my hair out in frustration and getting things just right, and they topple over, and it just happens. Take your time, you'll get there, have fun with it, play with your toys, guys, right? I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.